everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. We are not on the purple couch. I'm in Cards and Culture. I'm here with my guy, David Folse. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate you being here, making some time for us on this Zoom call. Where are you in the world today?
I'm in Slidell, dude.
Slidell, all right.
I got a couple of days off of work from the job. May is the busiest time to sell gym memberships. This is kind of like a go home and recharge and get ready for your life to take over.
I like it. And you're coming to Baton Rouge this weekend, right?
Coming to Baton Rouge this weekend. We got something in the works. It's gonna be kind of cool what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a little old school LSU baseball, you and me. Stuff that was probably happened when you were like a child. So it's
that was good. You're gonna educate me. It's good because I always like learning a little bit about the early 90s LSU stuff. It's good.
We're learning about the early 90s. God.
Okay. I know about the early 90s. I was alive during the early 90s. I'm just saying I didn't follow LSU basebal during the early 90s. I was all Yankees.
I know. You didn't know anything about it. Remember, LSU, Louisiana State University Day.
I know. I was working on my geography at the time, right? I was trying to figure out where Louisiana was on the map. We were figuring it out. It's good. Yeah. But we got some good stuff today because we're going to talk a little bit about these recruiting changes, right? This is kind of your specialty. You know everything A to Z about LSU recruiting, LSU baseball recruiting, that kind of stuff. So, and in the world of social media, phones, technology, things have changed so much from even when I was getting recruited. So the last 10, 15 years has been kind of crazy with the way coaches have interacted with these kids. You know, kids are recruiting in 8th grade, high school, freshmen, you know, that kind of stuff. So let's talk about these changes. We wrote an article about it. We put it on our website, but I'm excited to dive in a little bit with you on it.
So let's use you as the perfect example because I want to take advantage of a great tool we have here. Anthony Renato, the high school baseball player. When did you start? Let's go back before we go to where we are now. When did you start hearing from college coaches? Do you remember that first time a college coach said, "Hey, what's up?
Yeah,
you know, you're pretty good."
I remember I got a few letters in the mail, you know, and that was kind of like, oh my God, this is cool. But you knew that they were kind of sending them out to everybody, you know, they were just doing their homework. You were on a list or something. But I remember I was at a tournament in New Jersey, sophomore year, going into my junior year. And Fred Hill, the head coach of Rutgers, said something to my dad, you know, of like, we're looking forward to talking to you when the time is right or something, you know, like along the lines of, hey, we're interested, but we can't talk to you, you know, like type thing. And then I was like, oh, okay, the Rutgers, the state school is interested in me. And that kind of got my wheels turning a little bit about college recruiting.
All right. So that's the perfect example. You said into sophomore year, junior year. It sped up completely. If you look on the story we did on Cards and Culture, yep. LSU has 5 verbal commitments for the 2026 class. That's 8th graders. That's not even in high school yet. I go home and watch cartoons at the end of the day after I do my homework.
Exactly.
The big change that happened was the NCAA, starting on April 26th, so we're past that point now, made a complete rule change where it is you can't talk, you can't touch, you can't bump into, you can't initiate any contact with a high school recruit until August 1st of our junior year. So that means it all changes. So
new recruits. So now kids can't get contacted until their junior year. That's the way it was for me.
Right. That shows you how much the rules have changed. We went to where it was beginning, and then it went the other way because coaches were able to take advantage of it because there was never really that rule. It was just coaches just didn't do it. Then we ran into the whole, it'd be the first. If you were in 8th grade right now, and before this rule change, everyone would have been got to be the first to offer Anthony Renato. So he could put it up on Twitter. And I can always play the recruiting game of I was the first one to offer you. Yeah. It's a projection thing. And it's you're going to commit. We're not going to let you go to any other schools. And if you don't project and you don't grow into what we want you to do at the end of the senior year, nothing was in writing. So we don't have to do anything. So
is that really what happened? Like some kids would be committed all the way throughout high school, and then their senior year they just like pulled the scholarship.
That happened at LSU under the previous regime.
Oof.
Yeah, and it was because recruiting is all based on projections. What do we think you're going to do?
Right. Exactly. That's why I think
hopefully
it's absurd.
This changes it. But let's get back to the rule changes that happen. You can't come in until recruit can't initiate contact anymore until August 1st. So you can't do the bump in. You can't do the, I'm going to plan to meet Anthony Renato at this random place on this exact time of day.
Yeah.
That used to be how, football players would do it, baseball coaches. You can't do that anymore. So it is August 1st, junior year. I can introduce myself, shake your hand. Hey, I'm Coach Joe Blow from blah, blah, blah university. I mean, we're interested with you, all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
it completely changes the game there. But there's one, because with the NCAA, there's always an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
The exception to the rule, and you tell me how they're going to enforce this, is summer camps. 8th grade Anthony Renato can go to LSU baseball summer camp and talk with the coaches, but as the rule states, you cannot talk about recruiting and you can't talk about getting scholarship offers. You can talk baseball. You tell me how that's going to be enforced.
I don't know. And I mean, technically, these were the rules before. Like, I mean, this was, so that's how people were getting around it before was, oh, I met coach at the summer camp. He invited me to the camp through a letter. He didn't call my house and I signed up for it. Right. And I went to camp and then it just so happened that I was interested in going around campus and getting a tour and coach gave me the tour, like, or whatever. And it's like,
and if you're interested, if you're thinking about playing college baseball, that could be something we could see here and then offer you.
Right.
But yeah.
And then he verbally commits to say, yeah, I'll come here. Like, and so that's why I don't know. I don't like what's going to be different. How is it going to be different? I'm anxious to see how this goes and how I guess it would just be less news of so-and-so committing in 8th grade and that kind of stuff.
Right. And the way they're going to get around this, I've talked to multiple different college baseball staffs around the country. And what this kills, and I'm okay with this a little bit, is the travel ball thing.
Yeah.
And it kills you spend 50 grand with me, mom, and when he's in 7th grade, and I can make sure I get Jimmy Lipper, who, when we go to tournaments around the country, he'll automatically get a scholarship offer. I can guarantee that. That goes out the window. And if that happens, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that goes with this is it helps the kids. And it does help the sport, let's just be honest, because with baseball, it is a lot of projections. It is what we think you're going to do. These kids, these 5 commits that LSU has on the 8th grade level, nobody knows if they're going to continue to grow or if they're just really good high school or junior high baseball players. It's a projection. If they continue to improve, nobody knows if they're going to be good at this level. You got a better idea about your seniors that have already signed and then your junior commits because your body changes at that point. Your body is going through, if you're going to hit another growth spurt, you're going to do that. But there's a big difference between a 18-year-old Cade Anderson and a 13-year-old Brian Ravallo.
So the 2027 class is the 8th grade class. That's what I'm looking at right now.
The 2027 class is the 8th grade class. So let's look at this right here so we can go through it.
So
we're pulling up the story right now on cardsandculture.com. The 2023 class is the kids competing for state championship right now.
Okay.
That's your seniors.
And we'll see them on campus next year.
You'll see them on campus this summer. That's when we'll talk later about the draft. That's your Cade Andersons, Jake Browns, Griffin Coolies. If you remember, you can go back on our YouTube page. We were the only people who got Jay Johnson to talk about the entire staff. It was really cool.
Yep.
So your 2024 class, that's your juniors. That's the insanely talented class. That's where they have 1, 2, and 4 nationally. And Curial, Connor Griffith, and Cade Aram.
Wait, so that's the 24 class. Those are juniors right now in high school, right? They're about to be seniors.
17 verbal commitments. They can talk to them now because we're there. Where the rule goes into effect is the 2025 class. LSU, this is actually updated because we haven't put a story out yet, but it's coming. So in our story, we had 9 verbal commitments. Zion Theopolis.
Wow, that's my
ever.
I was just gonna say I can't wait to see that kid on campus.
Right-handed pitcher. He makes 10 in the 2025 class. LSU got this commitment in before the April 26th deadline.
Wow.
These kids, in theory, and looking at the rule changes, Jay Johnson, Wes Johnson, Josh Jordan can't talk to them until August 1st, because that'll
That's
be August 1st of their junior year. Cannot
that
talk to them. They can't reach out to them. They can't tweet them. They can't do any of that. The kids can't do it either.
that's
The
so
tw-
wild. Wait, the kids can't initiate the contact either?
nope.
Because that was another loophole. Was like, okay, just call me every Monday at 7 p.m. You know, we'll have it on the calendar or whatever, and that's how
Or
they
we
would talk.
call the Kmart manager and says, "Hey, somebody told me to call you, coach."
Yeah,
That kind of
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The 2026 class is sitting at 5 verbal commitments right now. You can't talk to them until August 1st, 2025.
And so those are freshmen, sophomores.
That's freshmen.
Okay.
Right now, freshmen wrapping up their freshman year. That's Braxton Beatty, Bubba Coleman, Braden Garner, Sammy Kane, and Parker Lowe.
Bubba Coleman, that's a great name too.
And then the 2027 class, the 8th graders that we talked about, they actually have 6. That's
Yep.
Colt Chrisman from Vegas, Devin Downs from Sterlington, Jordan Griffin from Barb, but he's not really from Barb yet because he's not old enough to go to Barb yet. Ricky Lopez from the Dominican Republic, he's currently in New York. Brian Raballo from Myanmar, Florida, and then Zone Wilson from San Diego. You can't talk to those kids until August 1st, 2026.
Yet they're committed.
Yet they're committed.
That's crazy. I love that we have a kid from the Dominican Republic though. That's in New York right now. That's awesome.
Haven't got a chance to talk to him yet. He's kind of like my white whale, where
Yeah.
you're trying to track down the number and do you have to talk to an agent? Do you have to talk to like a marketing guy? You
Yeah.
do that with some guys, but the rule changes they fascinate me, where it's, how are you going to enforce this? And why don't you do it with football? Can you imagine what this would happen in football? Covering football recruiting is I wouldn't say billion, but $500 million business. The Rivals, the 24/7, the On3. This is people's livelihoods, like people's
Yep.
jobs. I used to do that.
Yeah.
It is a $500 million business. Can you imagine if Brian Kelly was only allowed to talk to juniors at the start of their junior year?
No.
Why are you doing this in not doing this in football, but you're doing it in other sports? I'll tell you why. It's literally been called the Jay Johnson rule, because Jay does it better than everyone else. And it can't prove this yet, but I have a very good theory, and I'm really that he pissed too many other coaches off. Let's
Yeah.
just be straight up honest with this. What are you doing? Go and get these kids. Blah, 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 blah. So we're going to make this rule.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I think that's what it is, right? Is it just they're creating more of a barrier for us with the competition. They don't want us, to separate ourselves too far, or LS, I shouldn't say
And
ourselves, but
this what,
LSU.
and so Jay always responds to this. Jay will find a way, because he always does find a way. It's like that Jurassic Park moment when Jeff Goldblum goes, "Life finds a way." All you have to do is replace Jay Johnson with that part. But it's literally other people around the sport and sports agents out there have said, this is the Jay Johnson rule, because he was doing it too well. And other coaches got pissed.
Let's just start calling it the Jay Johnson rule. We're just gonna start calling it the JJ rule.
Right. And guess what? He'll find a way around this too.
Yeah, of course
and
he
he'll
will.
find a way to, and he still has the best recruiting class coming in. That's a credit to him. That's a credit to Josh Jordan. That's a credit to Dan Fitzgerald, the recruiting creator before that, who's now the head coach at Kansas. But in the end, it all comes back to Jay. So a lot of cool rule changes going on out there, but I don't know how they're going to enforce them. I'm fascinated to see how the sport changes, to be honest with you. And at worst, if this kills travel ball and the facade and the fakeness that comes with travel ball, I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah. Here's my crazy opinion. I don't think it's going to do that much. I actually don't. I don't think it's going to have that much impact. I think in the short term there'll be an adjustment, right? Like I was even talking to this kid that was getting recruited by Tulane, who's a freshman in high school here in town. He comes into the shop, and I was asking him how, and he was like, "Well, as of April 26th, we can't talk anymore." I was like, "Oh, okay." So right then and there, right, there's like the kids are a little unsure. They feel a little insecure. They're like, this coach, so I think the kids will have an adjustment in from their perspective, but I don't think from a fan's perspective, we're going to see too many things change crazily, except for the news of this 8th grader committed to LSU. This, you know what I'm saying? This freshman's going to Tennessee. And I think it'll, like you said, I think it'll be good for the travel ball craze. Like the kids thinking that they need to commit by freshman year, otherwise they're a failure, right? So I actually think it's going to be good for the mental health of a freshman, an 8th grader, a sophomore, where it's like, hey kid, go be a kid, go compete, just play baseball, and everything else will take care of itself, right? Whereas right now I see these parents and these kids in 8th grade trying to be like this kid that already committed that's a freshman, right? So I think there'll be a little bit less of the chase, but I think overall, like, it's not going to change the game too much. I think it'll just change more of the mindset of maybe parents and kids that are chasing these college scholarships.
And here's the other thing, building on your chasing the mindset thing. Here's what I hope changes, that it eliminates the I have to play baseball 365 days a year.
100%.
And where it's, if I'm going into my freshman year, I don't have to concentrate just on baseball so I can get a scholarship because my mom and dad think I'm going to go pro.
Exactly.
It can be, hey, guess what? Play football.
Yep.
Because these kids who are good enough to play high school baseball, they're athletic.
Yep.
This is not, I want to play football, play basketball. I want to, and in the end, comes down to, I want to give my arm a rest where I'm not throwing 90 innings in the fall and then coming in and for a travel ball team and then coming in and playing baseball and then my arm blows out. You have to play the other sports. At worst, it just lets you learn how to use other muscles.
Thank you. It makes you a better athlete. It teaches you so many different things. You're going to learn things just by meeting different teammates from different walks of life too. There's just, to me, I taking back on it, I agree. I think you're right that it's going to change the game in the sense of, I think we're going to see more athletes. I think baseball is going to be a better sport going forward. Because I think there's not going to be this pitcher only specialization, right? Like these kids just want to be pitchers so they can get the scholarship or whatever. I think that the game is changing in the major league level too, where they're rewarding people that are 40. Like, I think we're going to see more 40-40 people again because the bases are bigger, right? There's rule changes in base stealing. So people that can steal bases are going to be coveted more, right? So I think we're going to see an all-around change of a better athlete at the game, which is going to make our game more exciting. So who knows? Maybe it'll make just better athletes from the ground level up.
We talked about this a lot, and Connor Griffin is the example I always go back to. Number 2 player in the 2024 class, number 22 player overall in the country for the 2024 class. Stud. If he wanted to, he could be drafted right now.
Right.
But guess what? Connor Griffin at Jackson Prep plays football. He plays basketball.
Yep.
And then he goes, he does the whole summer thing, but he shuts baseball down. And guess what? Then he goes and plays baseball, but he also runs track.
Yep.
Your junior and senior, I hope this is what happens. Hey, guess what? If I need to start concentrating on things, I don't have to do this at the end of my 7th grade academic year, where I have to do this all the time. I can go and just be a kid.
Yep.
And then when it's time to start concentrating at the start of your junior year, then if you want to do that, fine, do it. This is when the college coaches can start talking to you. Are coaches going to find the loopholes around this? Absolutely. But it's good for the sport.
Yeah. No, I think so too. And I mean, my senior year, I argued with my dad. My dad didn't want me to play basketball. And I was like, all right, well, let's call Coach Maneri and see what he thinks. Or no, my dad actually was like, why don't you call Coach Maneri and see what he thinks? I'm like, all right, fine. So I called him and Coach was like, no, I want you to play. He was like, you should play. He was like, you should go for it. And I was like, all right, perfect. So I think a lot of coaches do like the athleticism aspect of it, right? Like just being a big man or like an athlete and being able to move your body different ways and recruit different muscles, like you said. I think it just makes you an overall better athlete, which makes our game better. So I hope kids keep playing. I think hopefully that'll change and allow them to have more fun as kids,
I think so too. I think we've run out of stuff to talk about, Anthony.
I like it. Well, good stuff, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We got another one on Thursday. I'm excited to see your collection and some of your memorabilia.
In person, dude. It's going to be fun.
We're going to be on the purple couch. This outfit would have been ideal for the purple couch, bro. You didn't say it for Thursday. Let's do the whole out.
Yeah,
this thing. What's going on there on the shirt? Is that a fish?
It's a fish. So
I love it.
I spent way too much money. We went to the LSU Union Bookstore because I was in town for a couple series ago.
Yeah.
And so you go into the Union Bookstore, and that's a dangerous place for me because it's just like you can spend way too much money. It's like one of those old fishing shirts, but it's
Yeah.
that dry fit feel
I know.
with the hoodie on the back, and I love it, dude. I'll debut a new one when we get a chance to talk. So it's gonna be fun. We're gonna get to see some old LSU memorabilia. So it's gonna be cool, dude.
I like it. I'm looking forward to it, dude. Thank you. I appreciate it.